Get ready to rumble! Get ready to rumble!
Pump up the jam, yo, pump it up, yo, pump it.
Y'all ready for this?
I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. Move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا بكم في برنامج نيوكاسل مع وليد. معنا ضيفنا دومينيك سكر من صحيفة شيلدز غازيت من نيوكاسل. Welcome lads and lasses to Newcastle Delivery Show. We have special guest tonight, Dominic Scurr from Shields Gazette. Welcome, Dominic.
Good evening. Thanks for having me on.
Happy and honored to have you, Mr. Dominic. What you can tell us a bit about yourself, especially to Saudi fans. You're working in Shields Gazette and also with other broadcasts. And you're covering Newcastle in particular. So what else can you tell?
I've been covering Newcastle United since December last year, so just after the takeover, the busy transfer window, and obviously a great turnaround under Eddie Howe. I'm from Newcastle fan. I've worked at the club previously as an intern during the 2015-16 season, and obviously know quite a bit about the club, being a season ticket holder in the past, and just enjoy covering the club home and away at the moment.
Brilliant. So any exclusive tonight?
Nothing that I can say, certainly. Sorry to disappoint, but yeah, I think most of the transfer news we'll probably discuss tonight is probably stuff that's been said already. But yeah, certainly an interesting opening week of the transfer window for Newcastle, and a lot of gears turning, a lot of work looking to get done.
Exactly, and your colleague Liam Kennedy, before, he always saying we talk about to connect the dots or join the dots.
Yeah.
Even if we don't have exclusive, we just connect the dots. So it's 78 days left, if we exclude today, left in this mercato. So at the starter question, what do you think the position really needed in the squad?
I think the main one is probably up front, the striker position. You need to strengthen. You look last season, Newcastle had Callum Wilson, Dwight Gale. Dwight Gale doesn't really get a look in, out of favour at Newcastle. He's probably going to be on his way in the summer. Callum Wilson, obviously a great player, will score goals, but doubts over whether he can stay fit for the full season. Then obviously Chris Wood came in January, but only scored 2 goals in 16 games, I think it was. So I think you need to look at having a reliable, dependable striker, which Newcastle don't really have at the moment in terms of scoring goals and staying fit. If Callum Wilson can stay fit, that's great, but you need to look at those attacking options, certainly. And we've seen Hugo Ekitike, who I'm sure we'll get on to. He's a striker, potentially Newcastle are hoping to bring in. And he could tick a lot of boxes, but at the end of the day, he is only 19, unproven in the Premier League. So even if he were to come in, I wouldn't rule out another striker potentially being looked at for Newcastle, because I think that is a key priority for them.
We have also we have special part of talking about the strikers. Okay, I went for the question. طبعا الأسئلة بنخليها آخر البث. Question for at last at the end of the show. Henderson, Dominic. Didn't Ashworth came? The deal of coincidence?
I'm not sure. I think there was reports that deal was very close from sources in the Northwest. Then very quickly, I did a story on it, and very quickly sources at Newcastle said, this is not true. This is not a deal we're looking at. So that's, to my understanding, where things stand, and nothing's really developed from there. And Newcastle now appear to be turning their attentions to other potential goalkeeping targets, because it is an area, not as important area as maybe the striker position is, because Mark Dubravka has done a good job for Newcastle in goal, but it is an area Newcastle will consider strengthening over the summer. And we're seeing the likes of Bernd Leno from Arsenal to even today getting linked, players like that. And it's certainly an option for Newcastle moving forward to try and strengthen those that goalkeeping position.
Regarding Almiron, you tweet here that the agent saying Almiron is happy. So I want to ask in this in particular, if we get, like, for example, Moussa Diaby or some right winger, Ismail Assar, do you think Almiron will still be happy?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Almiron's agent does like talking. He's said things in the past that Almiron could be looking to leave. He's got a release clause, 58 million, I think it is, in his contract. So he likes to talk, and whether or not I'd take probably what he's saying with a pinch of salt, although I think Newcastle fans would agree that Almiron is probably at the best place for him, at a club that he plays at, a club where he's done a relatively good job when called upon, certainly in the back half of the season, that goal against Crystal Palace. But he's not a guaranteed starter. So like you say, if Newcastle were to bring in a winger this transfer window, then his position, already he's not a guaranteed starter. And if you bring in another winger, his position will become in serious jeopardy, and his long-term future will be questioned. So you've just got to look at that, consider that. And I think if Newcastle were to bring in a winger, then you've got to look at getting players out. And Almiron is probably one of Newcastle's biggest assets in terms of attracting a transfer fee that they can probably afford to lose, because he's still just probably a squad player on the fringes of getting in the first team.
Regarding the budget, I'm not going to ask you what is the budget or how much do you think. I will ask you about the installment. It seemed when we're reading the news from different accounts, different journalists, talking about one of the way of paying in Newcastle by installment, or not the money not at once, to avoid financial fair play. So do you think this is what's really going?
Yeah, I think it's a sensible way to get around the financial fair play issue. Newcastle have already done that in terms of the Chris Wood transfer, paying that in instalments to Burnley. And it just makes sense. You don't want to be paying 20, 30 million as a lump sum if you can get away with paying 10 million, 12 million, and then paying another fee at a later date as well. Then it makes sense, because ultimately your finances, your financial fair play is going to be judged. And if you can find ways around it, then that's works for everyone, really. The club you're paying the money to ultimately gets the money at the end of the day, and Newcastle are able to sort of spread the costs more efficiently.
Some clubs like Lille, for example, they are in some short of money. Do you think they happy with this installment, or does it work? My question is, what do you think about the clubs? They accepting this kind of method of pay easily?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think in regard to Lille, clubs who may need the money now or may need the money to fund another transfer, they will want the money up front. What I'm saying is, if it is an option for Newcastle to spread it out, that's an option that they will most certainly look to take. But in circumstances like potentially with Lille, where it may be, take it or leave it, you're going to have to pay the full transfer fee here and now, then that's something Newcastle would have to consider as well. But I think it's ultimately down to each club's personal preference. Newcastle's preference would probably be to spread it out, but it's ultimately not going to be their decision.
Brilliant, Dominic. Please, this part is important for us. Help us to understand Botman situation.
Yeah, it's a complicated one. Newcastle obviously went in twice for him in January. Thought they were getting close, making progress to making a deal. I felt his name was mentioned almost every day in January. Becomes a bit frustrating, a bit tiresome. Ultimately, they got nowhere with Lille and frustrated there. They've revisited it now. The summer transfer window's open, and just when they think they're getting somewhere with Lille, transfer offer, is on the table, and now it looks like, similar to what we saw in January, the goalposts are just getting moved a little bit slightly by Lille. They're trying to maybe squeeze a bit more money out of Newcastle. Ultimately, Lille, it's down to them. They don't have to accept any offer Newcastle put to them, but just when Newcastle think they're getting somewhere, it seems like we're taking a step back. And Newcastle aren't going to just sit down and take that. They're going to be sensible, be pragmatic in their approach, and they're not going to be taken for a ride, as we saw in January when they walked away from the deal effectively, and now have revisited it. But obviously, with Botman's situation, he wants to find a new club in time for pre-season. He's already said he expects to leave Lille this transfer window, and AC Milan are obviously a factor as well. And with them being Serie A champions in the Champions League, probably, if we're being honest, a more attractive proposition for the player in the short term anyway. But if you're looking maybe financially or the chance to play in the Premier League, that's an attractive proposition for Botman in itself. So the decision is ultimately not going to be Newcastle's. It's going to be down to the player, who has spoken about how Newcastle is an option for him, and also AC Milan. And there's been conflicting reports which move he'd prefer. I'd say AC Milan are probably, if they can put up the transfer fee Lille are asking for, that's the more likely destination. But Newcastle most certainly have more financial clout at this moment in time. So if Lille were to accept Newcastle's deal, then there's no reason why a transfer can't go ahead with Sven Botman. Sorry, I'm struggling to get my words out. But there's no reason why a transfer can't happen there. But the big factor is, will Lille accept Newcastle's transfer fee? Because it looks to be a take it or leave it offer for Newcastle, which is my understanding around £30 million.
If let's say if it's true that there is extra, do you think 6 million, for example, make the deal off after this concern since January? Is it big reason to big deal to fall down?
Yeah, I think Newcastle will be sick of what's happened with Lille after January. They put 2 offers in, both get knocked back. They're trying to make progress, and now it's a sense of deja vu. The same thing happening again, just when they think they're making progress. Like I say, it's happening again. So if Newcastle were to then table 35, 36 million, that extra bit of money, like you say, who's to say Lille won't then go, oh no, we want 40 million. So Newcastle aren't going to be taken for a ride. They will look at options elsewhere if Lille aren't going to budge on that and are going to mess them around. So it's going to be one of those. It may be frustrating for Newcastle in the end, but they've got to be sensible. They can't be spending a large chunk of the transfer budget on a player who they may not feel is worth what Lille are asking for.
Who you believe the backup if Botman didn't work?
There's been a few names mentioned. Nathan Ake, for one, from Manchester City, but the fee being touted for him is far beyond even the Botman fee. I think around 50 million was quoted for Manchester City, which is madness. And then there's Lloyd Kelly as well from Bournemouth, but obviously he's been in the Championship. Bournemouth now promoted. Whether that's an option. Now Eddie Howe certainly likes the player, and he would certainly be a cheaper option. people would maybe see it as a bit of a downgrade from Botman, but people would have probably said that about Dan Burn in January. He came in and did a great job. So who knows?
Indica, I think. Ivan Indica. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, that's another option as well. I've heard his name mentioned. I'm not too privy to that deal in particular, but it's one of them. Newcastle, like you say, there's 70 odd days remaining in the transfer window. If this Botman deal doesn't go through, they've still got plenty of time to get a deal sorted. And even the back end of last season was saw with Dan Burn and Fabian Schär, a good, really solid defensive partnership being formed. Maybe not the long-term answer if Newcastle really want to push towards those European places, but certainly a more than capable defensive lineup as it stands. And if Newcastle can just strengthen that with a defender of the calibre of Botman, then that's certainly going to be a good sign for them moving forward. But we'll just wait and see. I think there's no reason why this Botman deal can't happen, but there's just those stumbling blocks that keep being put in Newcastle's way at the moment.
So we can say it's still 50-50 like that?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to put it. 50-50. He's either going to go to AC Milan or Newcastle. I think he said himself he doesn't expect to stay at Lille. So that's, if he was to stay at Lille, the player himself would probably be disappointed, and then Newcastle and Milan would probably be disappointed, missing out on what is probably one of European football's top young defensive talents. Only 22. He's potential to be one of the best defenders in Europe in the next 5 years or so. So, 50-50 is probably the best way to put it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Regarding this is double question regarding the striker. And for me, Chris Wood and Wilson, they will not. For me, not gonna do it. For me, it's not enough. For me as a fan, it's not enough. And even with Ekitike join us, for me also it's not enough. I believe Ekitike, he will come just for future, not to be not to have number 9 position. So what do you think of Ekitike deal? And do you think we have another, also even if Ekitike work, we sign Ekitike, do you think we'll have another solid striker?
Yeah, I do. Like I said before, I think striker is the main priority for Newcastle. And even if Ekitike comes in, like you say, he is one for the future. He's 19 years old. There's no, while he could be a real great player for Newcastle, even next season, he was the top scoring teenager in Europe last year, and he still missed a quarter of the season due to injury. So real potential with him there, but he is only 19, hasn't played in the Premier League. Ligue 1 is a completely different league to the Premier League. We've seen a lot of strikers come over after scoring a lot of goals, like Riviere, for example, at Newcastle, scored 10 plus goals for Monaco, just flattered to deceive in the Premier League. It's not to say that will happen for Ekitike by any means, but there is obviously going to be a question mark while he remains unproven in the Premier League. And if he were to come in, I think Newcastle would also want an experienced, proven striker as well, whether that be a continental striker from abroad or a proven Premier League striker. I haven't got any names. I wish I did. Other than Ekitike, obviously Darwin Núñez was linked on the screen now, but that looks like obviously that's over now. Set to go to Liverpool, but that would have been a nice one. But like I say, I think Ekitike plus another striker would represent an ideal window for Newcastle, in addition to strengthening in a couple of positions elsewhere as well.
بريليانت دومينيك. طبعا عندنا أسئلة هنا. أنا بس ببدأ الأسئلة اللي وصلتني في تويتر بعدين نروح أسئلة الشات. We'll start with the question I've been received in Twitter, and we'll try to go through them quickly. If you have a quickly answer, please, Dominic, for this question we received in Twitter before going to chat question. City Council of Newcastle, did they agree for expand the stadium? we have their acceptance or green light
For the
City
stadium?
Council for expanding the St James Park?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think there's been talks and plans to potentially expand the stadium, but there's nothing in place that would, to my knowledge anyway, that would suggest Newcastle have a green light to just go and expand as and where they want. They certainly can't expand the East Stand due to the listed buildings on Leazes Terrace, as everyone knows. Potentially the Gallowgate area behind the Gallowgate stand, they could expand over the metro station, that ground there, but a lot of work would need to be done. So I don't think anything in regard to expanding the stadium is on the horizon at the moment.
Brilliant. Okay, this is a story, not a question. Okay, ask please Mr. Scurr for next season. Expectation of next season.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I've said previously, if we're looking back in January, Newcastle in the relegation zone, we would have been happy with Newcastle finishing 17th, staying in the Premier League. They finish 11th. They've got to finish higher next season. They've got to do more. So the expectations, just by default, are elevated to what they potentially could have been. Newcastle is breaking into the top 10, just finishing 10th. Good enough, an improvement of one position? Probably not. They'll need to be looking to push into those European places for me. That's not to say I wouldn't be happy with a top 10 finish. It's just, you look at the way Newcastle ended the season, how well they've done just in general under Eddie Howe. You've got to look at taking that next step. They're going to strengthen over this summer transfer window, and they need to be, the phrase we use, the best of the rest. They need to be that with Leicester, with West Ham, with Wolves, those teams pushing to break into the top six. They might not do it. I don't expect them to do it, but they need to be certainly flirting with those positions next season. So I think the way Newcastle have finished the season has certainly elevated expectations for next season.
For me, I will not accept less than any European seat. All right. Okay. This is actually the same question. Okay. This one asking about, do you think we'll see some cooperation between Newcastle and other clubs? Any kind of cooperation?
In terms of loans, or is it just
general?
Just in general, no reason why it can't happen. I certainly haven't heard anything in that regard, but in terms of potential partnerships regarding loans, we've seen the likes of Chelsea and Vitesse, previously Manchester United, Royal Antwerp. They've had a system with loaning players out and getting players out regularly, first team experience, and there's no reason why Newcastle wouldn't look at doing something like that, because probably the outgoing loans is an area where Newcastle can improve on. We've seen Elliot Anderson have a really great spell at Bristol Rovers in League Two last season, but he's probably the exception, where a lot of loan players Newcastle have put out have struggled or really not made a lot of appearances. Seen Matty Longstaff as well do a good job at Mansfield Town, but you'd probably say League Two is beneath him. So work probably needs to get done in the loan department, and Shoal Amiobi's role as loan manager will certainly be looked at, and what he can do more to help that. But yeah, partnerships in general there's always a positive thing, that as long as it's mutually beneficial for both clubs, Newcastle are getting something out of it, and whatever club they're partnered with are also getting something out of it as well.
John asking, do you think Big Six, they will not sell any player for us to not compete with them?
Yeah, well, there might be a reluctance to do that, I'm sure. The Big Six, from what we've seen, what we've heard, there's certainly a bit of animosity between them and the Newcastle takeover, because it's a threat to to their status. It's been so uninterrupted for so long. You've had Leicester, West Ham flirt with those positions and threaten to break in, but they haven't really had the financial clout behind them in the way Newcastle do to really sort of sustain that threat and challenge for the Champions League places. So, yeah, there might be a reluctance to do business with Newcastle, certainly loan players to Newcastle, but ultimately money will talk at the end of the day. And if Newcastle come in with a big money offer for a player who, say, Manchester United are looking to get rid of, they're not going to turn down that money, but they may elevate the transfer fee by £5-10 million. We've seen it happen a few times already this window and in the previous transfer window.
Do you think Diaby will be a good acquisition?
It'd be a great acquisition. Whether it will happen, I don't think it will. I think Bayer Leverkusen aren't prepared to sell him. He's had such a good season there. Double figures in terms of goals and assists, which for a winger is great, particularly at the Bundesliga level. So he would be a great acquisition, but I think there's £60 million being quoted for him. Will Newcastle be willing to pay that? I'm not entirely sure. And I think Bayer Leverkusen's one of the sporting directors there has come out and said that they're not willing to sell him and he's not for sale. He's a big part of their future plans. But like I said before, money talks. If Newcastle can table an offer, then I'm sure it will be considered and he would be a great addition. But that's not a signing I can see happening at this moment in time anyway.
Some fans in Saudi Arabia always asking this question. For my friend here, asking about Eddie Howe. Is he the man of the future for Newcastle?
I hope so. I think he's certainly done a great job so far. He's maybe not the marquee name we would have, I wouldn't say liked, but certainly you get linked with Unai Emery, managers like that when the takeover first happens, Jose Mourinho, big names. Eddie Howe's a slightly more modest name, well respected, but I don't think anyone could have done as good a job as Eddie Howe's done. He knows the Premier League really well, and he's certainly got the potential to be a top manager. And 44 years old, still got a lot of time on his side. Point to prove in the Premier League as well. He's certainly gone some way to proving that with Newcastle, getting them out of the relegation mess and almost finishing in the top half. So I think he has been appointed at Newcastle with the view to this long-term project. If results suddenly start to go against Newcastle, then obviously that his position at the club would be questioned. But you just got to look at the job he's done so far and judge him based on that. And it's hard to criticise him in any way, really. I think he's done a near perfect job or as good a job as we could have ever expected. And even more so, really, surpass those expectations. And I think he could be a real one for the future for Newcastle in terms of managing the club for 5-10 years to come, hopefully, and win a few trophies along the way.
Brilliant, Dominic. Here we have a lot of a question, but it's same. I can short it in one question. Is the club is late on deals, or we are just in a hurry? Because we are eager for signings.
Yeah, we're eager for signings. I think Newcastle will be patient, will be pragmatic. We saw even in January, everyone was impatient with that Kieran Trippier deal, that first one getting over the line. It finally did. Then we wanted the next deal, and there's going to be patience is going to have to be required. It might be a slow burn at times. We saw the Matt Target deal.
Yeah, is it intentionally this called? Is it intention to not making other clubs greedy for us to take it easily? Because we have plenty of time. Yeah.
I think they won't rush into any deal. Certainly, even in January, you saw when it was a matter of urgency, they needed to get deals done. They were still patient. They were still calm. And now they've got a full summer to do business. They're not going to rush into any deals that they don't need to. Certainly not now. Even if it means missing out on the odd transfer target and that transfer target going elsewhere, Newcastle most certainly won't panic, particularly with Dan Ashworth in now, who will be that measured head, oversee the recruitment process. So yeah, Newcastle, I've got a lot of respect for the business they've done so far, and I expect that transfer business to continue in the same manner over the next couple of months in the summer transfer window.
Last question, dear Dominic, regarding the shirt. When do you think the second shirt and the third away and the third shirt will be released in market, or for order pre-order?
That's hard to say. I'd expect it at some point in pre-season. They might play in it and then use that as a joint sort of announcement thing. Potentially the home games at St James's Park towards that back end of July. But that's just me speculating. I've got no set dates that I know of. But I'd expect some point in pre-season ahead of the new season for at least one of the away shirts to be announced, and then we'll see where we go from there. And yeah.
Thank you, Dominic, for joining us. Thank you for answering the question, and hope to have you next time soon, hopefully. Thank you, Dominic.
Thanks for having me.
كان معنا دومينيك سكار من صحيفة شيلدز غازيت، جاوب على أسئلة سألتوني إياها، وأسئلة كانت في السوشيال ميديا. راح إن شاء الله نحاول نعمل ملخص بعد الحلقة إن شاء الله وننزلها في تويتر. شكرا لكم للمتابعة. Thank you for watching. Good night.